to stretch out the timeline here, to slow the frequency down a little bit, the frequency climb. That 2003, somewhere in there, probably toward the end, looks like the time when the 3-day particle conversion is going to appear. Now, 3-day particle conversion is interesting. In the Voyagers book, Voyagers Volume 2, the original printing, it explains some of the things about what that looks like. It's on the 3rd day of the particle conversion that the final separation of the timelines takes place, which means that's when the matter base that can't hold the higher frequency goes into the phantom time matrix probability, and where the bridge zone would completely separate from that, and then from there, the ascension cycle, when it goes all the way up to Tara, would happen. Thank you. So, particle conversion, there's a part of it that I wasn't aware of, but for a long time I've been saying, all right guys, what will this look like? Okay, let's say we're on planet and particle conversion takes place. Oh, don't worry, we'll get to that when it's closer to the time. And I could tell when they do that there's things you don't want to know right now, and you'll get to them when we need to, but no need to give your mind something to worry about in the meantime. A couple days right before this workshop started, I got a little bit of information on the 3-day particle conversion period. And they said, well, it's not for the workshop, it's just to have, just so you know. And they told me today that I'm to read that section, parts of that section. It's not even done. It's just little parts of it, of what it means. Now, this is, when I read this part to you, it's what we would be experiencing if we were not able to create a buffer zone. So the buffer zone is the solution to this. And the buffer zone depends on the indigos waking up. Because the indigos need to be able to run enough frequency to get those anchoring rods put in, the bivecta and trivecta anchoring rods through the round tables. If that happens, this stuff is still going to take place, but we won't see it in the hologram because we'll be in like a little bubble of frequency. The planet will be. That will be the buffer zone. So the transitions will be going on around us, and the most we would see is certain things might disappear on the 3rd day of particle conversion, and some people might disappear. They're the ones that went into a different timeline. But the majority of people would be sustained by the frequencies that are in the buffer zone from the Meow zone time cycle. Now, I'm going to dig out the part that got into particle conversion here. Okay. And I'm just going to read it the way it was given to me, not the whole thing, because there's other stuff in here that has to do with other stuff that's not exactly a part of this. But there's a 3-day particle conversion period of stellar activation cycles. In natural stellar activation cycles, the spin rate of the planet's density 1 magnetic Merkaba spiral progressively accelerates due to systematic stellar wave infusions, or infusions of frequencies coming through the solar gate from the other stargates above. Okay. The 3-day particle conversion period occurs when the density 1 Merkaba reaches the natural speed of the density 2 electrical Merkaba. Simultaneously, the density 2 Merkaba reaches the natural speed of the density 3 Merkaba. When this synchronized transharmonic speed ratio is reached between the Merkaba spirals, planetary ones we're talking about here, of the 3 densities, the electrons of atomic structure reverse polarity and draw into the atomic nucleus to become protons. The protons in the nuclear core fuse with the neutrons, and the atomic nucleus reverses angular rotation of particle spin to replicate that of its antiparticle double. The particle and antiparticle then merge to form an interior transharmonic electrical pulse, which rapidly and temporarily transmutes the nucleic structure first into the state of density 2 semi-etheric matter, then density 3 etheric matter, and density 4 pre-matter liquid silica, and finally density 5 antimatter thermoplasmic gaseous silica. The atomic structure literally demanifests completely for a series of micro-nanosecond intervals of time, turning into conscious electricity. In terms of a planet's 3-day particle conversion period, the demanifestation of the planet does not all occur at once to the density 1 perception. The matter base transmutes during a period of 3 approximately 24-hour waves. In the first wave, the density 3 toric shield, the Gaia matter particle base transmutes, to trigger the second wave of day 2, transmutation of the density 2 Doradic shield, the Terran matter. On the 3rd day, the 3rd wave occurs, and the density 1 telluric shield, Earth matter, transmutes into electrical pulse. Now, they went on to describe, we got as far as day 3 in the beginning of it, but days 1 and 2 will give you an idea of what is going on in the physics of the planet. and it's kind of slightly mind-blowing. Okay, first wave of transmutation, day 1. It's called the Arcturian activation because it has to do with the D7 Arcturian gate, and its frequency is aligning here. The outer atmosphere conversion, magnetosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere. During the first wave, the 9th, 8th, and 7th sub-frequency bands of Earth density 1 magnetic Merkaba fields turns electrical. The outer magnetic fields in the magnetosphere, 40,000 plus miles out, the ionosphere, 620 to 38 miles out, and the exosphere, 435 miles out. Negative charge electrons reverse polarity to become positive charged protons and merge with the density 2 electrical antiparticle solar Merkaba, parallel Terra, inner Earth, and parallel Earth. The Van Allen radiation belts in Earth's magnetosphere, which are composed of particles and antiparticles captured from the solar wind, expand and reverse polarity. The primary electron negative charge base magnetic particles of the outer belt, 9,300 to 15,500 miles out, reverses charge to become a proton positive charge base, fully linking the solar and planetary Merkaba spirals. Resultantly, the electrons of the inner belt, 620 to 3,100 miles out, also reverse charge and become protons. As the particle charge of the radiation belts turns primarily to a proton field, particles shift angular rotation of particle spin to fuse with their antiparticles, releasing transharmonic photons, which are superluminal, faster than the speed of light. Protons, they're protons, but you can't see them from here. The radiation belt becomes a living superluminal transharmonic photon field of interdimensional light waves, transmuting the original atmospheric gases into new hydrogen-based elemental compounds while burning off the density 1 atomic carbon base via internal nucleic fusion, leaving silica crystal dust behind. As the radiation belts and Earth's magnetosphere transmute, the ionosphere is triggered into the same reaction. On the first wave of transmutation, the magnetosphere, the radiation belts, the ionosphere, and the exosphere out from Earth's surface, that's like 435 miles out and up from Earth's surface, are transmuted into transharmonic photon field of cold-burning, hydrogen-based superluminal subparticles. Okay, that's it moving down toward us, right? Okay. 3 days of darkness and the sound. Upon the initiation of the first wave of transmutation, 3 days of cold darkness begin on Earth. Through the transmutation process, the natural density 1 D789 frequency subharmonics of the planetary Merkaba, magnetosphere, ionosphere, exosphere, and magnetic fields convert directly to density 2 electrical pulse, as the density 1 telluric shield, Earth's template, begins fusion with the density 2 duratic shield, Terra's template of Terra. The photonic hydrogen-based elements that make up the transmuted outer atmosphere of density 1 Earth represent superluminal density 2 photons, transharmonic photons, and subparticle units that move faster than the speed of density 1 light, and thus appear as the absence of light in density 1. Stationed in density 1, the fusion of the Earth-Terra shield is perceived as density 1 light disappearing, as Earth's atmosphere reaches a superluminal state and is transmuted into density 3 sound, density 2 light. And it says, note, density 1 light spectrum is the density 2 sound spectrum. Density 2 light spectrum is the density 3 sound spectrum, etc. As the light disappears, the sound comes. The greatest quantity of sound wave spectra in the sound we speak of is primarily inaudible to the external human ear. Rather, this sound is heard as a sound within the head and inner ears that begins as a low, deep hum, then a deep rumble, and progresses upward in tone to a building sound of higher-pitched static, eventually to become a steady, high-pitched whine.
Wonderful.
Biology, density 2 light, density 3 sound, DNA, celestiline, and atomic transmutation. It is the sound waves of density 3, density 2 light, emerging into density 1 Earth's atmosphere and matter base that cause the matter forms and biologies that cannot hold the faster oscillating shorter wavelength frequencies to implode. Holding interdimensional sound frequencies requires that a form have in its blueprint template the corresponding dimensional sequences of scalar wave units or fire letters. Human DNA, and that of numerous other Earth life forms, has the capacity to hold interdimensional sound waves, and thus such life forms can survive the 3-day particle conversion period of a stellar activation cycle if the DNA is functioning properly. When human DNA functions properly, the dormant turnstile and interface DNA sequences turn on within the hydrogen bonds. That's what we talked about the other day, with the hydrogen bonds they're linking the nucleotide base pairs in each ladder rung of the DNA chain. Okay, this is where the new turnstile and interface DNA sequences would turn on to begin the chemical production that would allow the body to make the shift in angular rotational particle spin. Okay, there's creating elemental chemical celestaline, which is that chemical that allows the body to begin its transmutation process. The celestaline would move through from its production in the DNA through the usual distribution systems and into the blood and begin to change the hormonal systems and all of that. Celestaline, it happens extremely quickly, by the way. Like, you don't get time to watch your celestaline come. It's just like, bang, shoot, you're gone. You're either here or you're gone. You know what I mean? It's really fast. Celestaline causes multifaceted hormonal changes that allow the body rapid adaptability to the hydrogen-based atmosphere and molecular dedensification characteristic of particle conversion. So living biological integrity is retained. This is activation of the personal Merkaba vehicle. So while that's happening in the chemicals in your body, the Merkaba vehicle is progressively activating around you. So when you work with activating your Merkaba, you're actually progressively getting the body able to make these chemical changes when the time comes for the full thing, for the full transmutation to take place. Okay, embodiment of interdimensional sound light waves via activation of the corresponding scalar waves in an appropriately functioning body template triggers the turnstile and interface DNA and celestaline production, which allows the angular rotational particle spin of the atomic structure to shift to the new density level and time pulsation rhythm, which means you would have biological adaptability to an atmosphere that right now would kill you. Alright, so now, as is the end of day one, we're still moving through a little bit more explanation of day one. We're going to go into day two. I don't have the whole thing on day three, but day two is really, really interesting. Okay? All right. As we progress, the 3 days of darkness begin with the D987 frequency subharmonics of Earth's Merkaba spiral merging with those of inner and parallel Earth and density 2 Terra's Merkaba spirals. Day 1 represents the D7 density 3 Arcturian activation of Earth's Templar as the density 2 D6 resonant tone indigo antiparticle wave and density 3 D7 base tone etheric particle wave, the violet ray of transmutation, moves into the 7th, 8th, and 9th subfrequency bands of Earth's D1, 2, and 3 light sound spectrum and the atomic base. The dark skies take on first a subtle indigo blue-black cast, which then intensifies into a deep violet blue hue as D1, 2, 3 subfrequencies of the D6 indigo and D7 violet spectrum amplify through the beginning transmutative fusion of the gases in the outer atmosphere. The violet ray raises the oscillation rate of electrons to begin their process of transmutation into protons, so the reversed electrons as protons are magnetically drawn into the nucleic core for fusion with their antiparticles. Atomic embodiment of the violet ray begins nucleic particle-antiparticle fusion within the magnetosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere levels of Earth's atmosphere, progressively transmuting the density 1 gases into hydrogen silica-based semi-etheric gaseous matter density by an organic form of internal cold fusion. During the first wave, Arcturian activation, Earth begins entry into the first of 3 stages of the state called Hala phase Merkaba, the 6th-dimensional Merkaba vehicle. About halfway through day 1 and halfway into day 2, Earth receives its second wave of transmutation, the silver wave infusion of the density 3 D8-9 Orion activation. Okay. The second wave of transmutation, day 1.5 to 2.5, the Orion activation. Atmosphere conversion, thermosphere, mesosphere, and outer ozone layer. During the second wave of the 3-day particle conversion period halfway through the day 1, the silver wave infusion of the Orion activation brings the density 3 D8 gold light spectrum and D9 silver light spectrum into Earth's atmosphere. As the Orion activation begins, the 6th, 5th, and 4th subfrequency bands of Earth's magnetic fields and Merkaba spiral turn electrical. Magnetic fields in thermosphere 50 miles out, mesosphere 31 to 50 miles out, and the outer ozone layer 25 to 30 miles out. Negative charge electrons reverse polarity to become positive charged protons to proceed with fusion to the inner Earth, parallel Earth, and density 2 solar and Terran shields and Merkaba fields. As the Orion activation continues, moving into day 2, The D123 subfrequency bands of D8 base tone gold light and D9 overtone silver light move down through Earth's atmosphere to the level of the outer ozone layer. During the second wave, Orion activation, Earth's outer atmosphere begins entry into the second of 3 stages of the 6-dimensional density 2 holophase Merkaba vehicle, as the middle atmosphere enters the first stage of Hala Merkaba. So something else is going to happen to the outer layer as what happened to the outer layer begins to move into the second layer of the atmosphere. About halfway through day 1, halfway into day 2, Earth receives its second wave of transmutation, the silver wave infusion of the density 3 D8, D9 Orion activation. Hydrogen burning, gamma rays, disappearing forms, and storms. Here we go. As the gases from the thermosphere, mesosphere, and outer ozone layer begin their transmutation process into hydrogen-based atoms, the gases of the magnetosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere in the outer atmosphere begin their second stage of transmutation, as their hydrogen-based atoms undergo reorganization through hydrogen burning. The gases of the outer atmosphere further transmute from a hydrogen base into helium-based atoms and give off a progressively intensifying field of gamma rays and residual subparticle units. The inner atmosphere closer to Earth's surface takes on a beautifully eerie metallic quality as the D8 gold and D9 silver light spectra combine with the D6 indigo and D7 violet light from the Arcturian activation. The air seems to sparkle with minute particles of iridescent light as pale violet silver sheets of light course through the dark skies and progressively multicolored light displays randomly erupt, especially from the polar and equatorial regions. The low, primarily internal hum and rumble sound that began with the Arcturian activation rises in pitch as the second wave moves to Earth. Some types of biological and inorganic forms begin to glow with an aura of various hue, proceeding into a crimson glow, then literally disappear via internal, flameless, spontaneous combustion, as their scalar templates are raised to too great an oscillation rate to retain form integrity. It is here, upon commencement of the second wave, that the storms of weather begin in earnest, as the changes in the thermosphere, mesosphere, and outer ozone layer set in motion high-velocity winds and extreme electromagnetic fluctuations that send the tidal rhythms into temporary chaos. As the thermosphere initiates its transmutation process and surface weather changes begin, deep quaking begins within Earth's inner mantle. Earth's core temperature rises and surface temperature falls rapidly, plunging much of the surface into sub-zero temperatures and a temporary quick freeze. At this point, all man-made devices operated through electromagnetic force completely cease to function, and debris in Earth's outer atmosphere, including satellites, are thrown from orbit, some catapulting into space, others crashing into Earth, most to incinerate as they pass through the transmuting outer atmosphere. A deep low-frequency vibration begins within Earth's core that can be felt within the human body, and areas of Earth's outer mantle and crust that cannot hold this frequency begin to fissure and crack apart, causing earthquake and volcanic activity in these localized areas. The safest places to ride out the storm are deep inland caves and caverns within high-ground locations in areas that have been previously set with mantle-stabilizing Q zones. The most precarious places, are coastal regions and areas near bodies of water on low ground, welcome to Sarasota, which are likely to experience flooding and flash freeze. As the second wave completes about halfway through day 3, the third wave of the Andromeda activation commences. And this is a quote from something in Revelations in the Bible. It says, quote, "The moon turns red and the stars go out." Our guys have always called this the night of the 2 moons. Toward the end of the second wave and Orion activation, darkness grows deeper and no stars can be seen at this point, but the beginning of an apparition called the 2 moons begins to appear in the dark sky. The 2 moons apparition begins with the illusion of the barely visible moon of Earth taking on a pale pink then crimson red cast. The lunar red cast occurs as the mixed D1 and D12 subfrequency spectrum that marks the beginning of the passage of atomic structure into merger with its antiparticle from the parallel universe becomes apparent in the outer atmosphere. The magnetosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere begin their final stage of temporary transmutation from helium-based atoms to units of pre-matter liquid light hydroplasm. The moon turns red and the sky grows dark and starless, and asteroid showers commence as the transmutative force of Earth's outer atmosphere begins to reestablish a density 2 magnetic field as Earth's atomic body begins passage through the magnetic repulsion zone, the null zone, between density 1 and density 2 frequencies. Portions of Earth's density 1 Merkaba atmosphere that have matched, then doubled the speed of Terra's density 2 Merkaba spiral enter hollow Merkaba and pass through the null zone as a transharmonic photon field. The density 1 atoms progressively transmuting into less dense density 2 carbon silica-based semi-etheric matter. The newly forming density 2 planetary magnetic fields draw space debris in from the area surrounding the null zone as portions of Earth's atmosphere progressively pass through the null zone into density 2 time rhythm. The atoms of Earth's outer atmosphere progressively fuse with their antiparticle atomic doubles from parallel Earth as they continue conversion into density 2 matter and time rhythm. While the particle-antiparticle change is occurring in the outer atmosphere, a portion of the red moon glow can still be seen from surface Earth. The glow advances into what at first looks like a moon halo of pale pink. The moon halo progresses to generate the illusion of the moon separating into two moons, as for a time the ghost image of Earth's moon in the parallel system can be seen. The second moon appears less dense than the first and seems to slowly move across the sky away from the first moon, finally, by the middle of the third day, holding a new position on the horizon opposite the first moon. Okay, now, this is the part I didn't get fully done with, but we started this process anyway. Let's see. The third wave of transmutation, day 2.5 to 3, the Andromeda activation, inner atmosphere and crust to core conversion. The third wave begins by about the middle of day 2 with initiation of the Andromeda activation as density 3 D9 base tone silver light and density 4 D10 overtone blue-black sapphire light move into Earth's atmosphere and shields. As the Andromeda activation begins, the D3, 2, and 1 subfrequency bands of Earth's magnetic fields and Merkaba spiral turn electrical. And what this means by the Merkaba spirals turning electrical is our magnetic fields collapse temporarily during this period. Okay, let's see, where am I? Okay.
The magnetic fields collapse, that means we don't have gravity.
Yeah, but as they're collapsing down here, they're rebuilding the density 2 fields. So as long as it goes well, you're not going to float out into space. Okay. And the thing is, we'd be dead by now. Okay. At this point, that's where the buffer zone comes in. That's where, if the indigos can wake up enough to do their job, this will be going on like a tyrant around us, but our planet can literally be in like a bubble of frequency that protects it, and by the time everything stabilizes, you can blend this hologram into the inner Earth hologram, and we will have a relatively stable experience going through it. That's the last-ditch attempt of it not turning into something that was foretold in Revelations. So it really depends on the indigos and what they do. And the indigos came to do this. They came with the knowledge of it, and they also came knowing they would go to sleep as soon as they incarnated here. So it's the wake-up call, and we weren't supposed to be having this wake-up call until they were going to start about 2008 and gently lead us into what it means to be here for particle conversion. Now the indigos will be the ones that actually have the ability to stay on surface, to actually go outside of the buffer zone and help to anchor frequency if it's needed. If there are certain things going out of balance, it would be the indigos that would be called to go out into the field, because they could create their own Merkaba and sustain it in that environment, so they could run frequency to keep the grid stable. So this is potentially something that you'd be on call for at that point. Okay, let's see what we get into, if there's anything more interesting on day 3. This is when.
Oh, we're listening.
All right. Let's see. Let me see how far I got on this part. Okay, I'll finish this part of it, and then there was like a ... which means we had to switch to something else because the workshop was coming up. And this isn't what they wanted for the workshop right then. This is just enough for this time. They knew this day was going to be here when I was going to be asked to read this. Okay. Anyway, as the third wave continues, the magnetic fields in the inner ozone layer, 15 to 30 miles out, the stratosphere, 6 to 25 miles out, and the troposphere, 6.5 miles out, begin to do their transmutation process. Let's see, it's going through the same, explaining that negative, charged electrons reverse polarity to turn to protons, DVD draw into the nucleus, do their thing that I've read twice before already. Okay, now, let's see if there's anything. Oh, okay. as the third wave begins to touch down on Earth's surface, bringing the first stage of transmutation fully to Earth, the outer atmosphere begins its final stage of transmutation. After fusing with their antiparticle counterparts and passing through the null zone, the prematter hydroplasm units of what had been the magnetosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere begin to re-solidify into density 2 carbon silica semi-etheric atomic structure. The hydroplasmic units of Earth's transmuted outer atmosphere begin to slow in oscillation and repolarize into electrons, protons, neutrons, and atoms in density 2. As the atoms return to manifestation from their hydroplasmic state, they first take on a unified form of undifferentiated semi-etheric matter substance that appears as clusters of minute threads or hairs of crystalline hydroplasm called hydroplasmic crystal fibers. This crystallized silica quartz selenite celestron carbon elemental substance has been called ectoplasm by earthly mediums. The transmutation of atomic form into hydroplasmic crystal fibers takes place through internal atomic nuclear fusion. As the nucleus of atoms begins to fuse with their antiparticle nuclei, first a wave of multicolored light moves through and around the entire form, causing it to glow with light and briefly emit electrical charge. The 12 subfrequency bands, primary wavelengths for each of the D123 portions of the atomic strut body, run through the form. When the D12 hydroplasmic 12 subfrequency band activates within the atom and its scalar template blueprint, the oscillation rate of the atom accelerates to match the oscillation rate of matter in density 2. Atomic oscillation accelerates due to the acceleration of the rotational speed of the magnetic Merkaba spirals within and surrounding the atom. When the atom reaches density 2 oscillation speed and its density 1 magnetic particle Merkaba spirals, rotational speed matches that of its corresponding density 2 electrical antiparticle Merkaba spiral. The atom then reverses polarity and angular rotation of particle spin to become photonic electrical impulse. So this is just explaining what was explained before on a planetary level. This is what's going on in the body when it passes through into... It's kind of neat because what the image I was being shown, I kind of get images with this sometimes, was I was seeing, we went from the moon turns red stuff into seeing the glow and seeing like the image of the two moons. Then I was seeing this really neat thing that looked like a frozen sea of crystal. That was the first. I was thinking, what is that? That was the first, that nondescript form that as it transmutes goes into hydroplasm. Then the matter base comes back at the density 2 level. The first stage it takes on, it literally looks like a world made of glass, like crystal. And then it progressively solidifies. That's when it goes into that state they used to call ectoplasm. The mediums used to call it because they would see forms in it. Once something had come in and talk from the other side, it would leave like an ectoplasmic form behind. So this is actually a process that thought goes through too. When you think of thought, it goes through these density levels and transmuting through them. But we would basically, the planet's in for a ride. It's going to transmute the particle base, and it's going to end up re-solidifying a particle base. But that re-solidification is going to undergo a 45-degree shift in angular rotation of particle spin so it can plug into the inner Earth timeline, because it wouldn't be able to sustain holding on to the Terran timeline right now because the frequency here is too low. So it'll hold into the inner Earth timeline through the Meyage zone. And if we're able to create the buffer zone by anchoring those 144 trivecta round tables and 144,000 bivecta ones, literally the whole planet can go through this while in the little theater hologram bubble. So it looks pretty stable. You still may get some storms and some interesting phenomena like things disappearing before your eyes, but it won't be a trauma experience like it would be otherwise. Now, if we're not able to get all of that accomplished, the 144 plus the 144,000, there will be certain areas that can maintain that type of zone. And at that point, only localized visitations would be organized, where people would be, the indigos would be asked to go out and get people to come to the areas on surface that were under the protection of these, they call it a Meyage field. It's the field that's, being protected by the Meyage zone transharmonic time cycle. If we were not able to establish enough of those where there was no place on surface that was stable enough, that's when the evac call would be put out, and it would be right on the line. It would be like less than 24 hours before particle conversion was to start, because it would only create panic and widespread nonsense if it were to start any time sooner. It would be ridiculous, and there would be so much messes created, we probably wouldn't even be able to successfully get anybody through. So they're not giving us, here's what you do for evacs yet. They're giving us, here's what you do to stop the need for evacs. Okay? Now, here's what to do is really interesting. They've given me the two codes. One is the bivector code, which is built on the Vesica Pisces, but it has something different in the side. It has its open phase and its closed phase put together. So you'd have the Vesica Pisces with inside of that little window that it makes in the middle, you'd have the circle with the dot. So you've got them both together. And then there's another one called the Trivector code, which is really the Trinity code, the Holy Trinity. It's, I'll try to hold this up and show you. I just got it scribbled on the back. It's not that hard. And I think there's a name for this that was used in, like, other ancient mystical societies, but I bet they never told you what it was for. All right, you can pass this around because I don't think you can even see it. It's really light on here. It's 3 circles forming a 3-way vesica, okay? And in the center of it, there is another. There's the circle with the dot, which is the closed, already fulfilled vesica. They used to call this is actually what they call it, the transharmonic conversion point, is that area that looks like an eyeball, a vertical eyeball in the center. That's also been called the Eye of Elohai, because that's the place that literally connects you to that middle time zone out of the 3, to the inner Earth time zone, that leads all the way up to the Shield of Aramatena area in density 4, which is the home of the Elohai. So that symbol, if you look at it that way, it looks like an eyeball in the center. Okay? Now, what we do with these symbols, these are very intense, multidimensional mathematical codings that speak to your body templates and create change. Now, with using these with what we know about Merkaba already, we're going to use them with a salutation. And the way to use them is, they had me do them, but they kind of smudged. But when you do a Merkaba, you put them on the bottom of your feet, okay? And you put the bivector code on the right, and the trivector code on the left. Now you have chakras there, and you're going to be running your D12 frequency, when you're doing a salutation, and, bringing it up to run your Merkaba. And you're going to use the Merkaba philosophy to literally barrel the thing down into the planetary shields and up into your DNA template. But this is why there's a security clearance on this stuff. These were very protected codes. The codes were floating around, but nobody knew what to do with them and what you were supposed to use them for, because these are the access codes to open the inner Earth portals. And they were highly, highly protected, and only the Magi race lines, the Grail lines, were allowed to have them, and even those guys sometimes weren't allowed to have all of how you use them. We're beginning the first phase. We've got to get them into our own templates. Then we have the ability to run tables, all right, to run round tables that will imbue those codes into the planet. And when we do those round tables, we are anchoring what looks like a major pillar of sound. These are the anchoring rods that will allow the shift and the anchoring of the shift through the Mirage zones. They have to be set before the Mirage zones open. They're due to open in 2002. So we need to get them set this year. This is the beginning of a very interesting process, guaranteed. And I'm not looking forward to seeing the night of the 2 moons. So I'm hoping we don't see the night of the 2 moons, but somewhere in between, because if we see nothing happening, we know we didn't make the shift either. So if we sit here and nothing happens, and we get to the year 2012, by then we'll probably be, our government will be very different. It will probably be run between a competing force of Draconian and Anunnaki ET visitors who come in to tell us we're not running our planet right, so they're going to do it for us. That is not a reality we want to see either. So the main work comes to working with, and this is the first level of symbols that will be given to begin opening sequences on the inner Earth portals. It'll be different for everybody as far as once you have these codes, you have the ability to begin having interaction with the inner Earth people. It will start telepathic. They're not going to pop up at your door and say, "Hi, I want to come for a walk." That takes a while. All right, there's a trust factor that has to be built, because basically the nature of the drama we're in. The other thing that's happening, and this too is on security. Now it takes them about 3 days to translate once they download the frequency. They don't know what we're doing yet. Okay, the Illuminati races do not know what we're doing yet. They've got the transmission now, but it takes them a while to decode it. In the meantime, the reason this has all been accelerated is because as of, what do they say, as of August 12th, the Illuminati races, being motivated by the United Resistance visitors, have reactivated fully Montauk, and they've connected it now to the HARP network. All right, the heart network is not just the one that everybody's focusing their attention on. In fact, that's the least powerful of them. There are a dozen of them, stations like that are positioned in various places on the globe. The sonic testing that's being done now in the Atlantic is part of this program. They're attempting to set up, we've talked before in Voyager's Volume 1, I believe it was, about the frequency fence that if things progress, they were intending to set up. Well, the only hope the Illuminati forces have now of stopping this planet from being put under protection is if they can make the indigos go to sleep, which means suppress their brainwave patterns and their DNA activation level. So their last-ditch attempt to do this is they're going to try as fast as they can to force the frequency fence up. This process is beginning as of August 12th. The transmissions began to move through the grids, because they don't move through as soon as you put them in. They begin to move through the grids by the 30th of August, so they are beginning their phasing process now. Now, they can't stop what we've already done. Their frequency does not, it can't touch D12 frequency. If we use, there's another reason the trivecta and bivecta codes are being given, because if we use these codes personally with our Merkabas and keep that code awake in our fields by doing salutations once or twice a week and simply using the codes, it will protect us from being affected by those frequencies. They're being not just pinpointed toward indigos, but they have an extra amplification just for indigos. They're trying to put the world to sleep right now because they know it's their last-ditch attempt. They are also attempting, as the advancement of their program, to initiate certain conditions that will begin with about November of this year, beginning chaos in the financial systems. Not a crash. Everybody's expecting a bang when the bottom drops out. They're not going to do it that way. They're going to do it as a slow crawl down, a couple little ups, down again. They're going to get our emotional bodies going like this. And then they're planning a crash right around the beginning of 2003 if things go the way they want them to. This is what their initiative is, because what their real initiative is to instigate war. Because if they can get humans all freaked out and fighting with each other, they're going to be distracted from the fact that mirage zones are here and that there's stuff that has to be done, that if you focus on what you need to do, you don't have to worry about what they're doing to stop you, because you'll get done what you need to do. So they are beginning the process of the positioning, the economic structure and the political structure for a demonstration of chaos. And that chaos is due to arrive anywhere between end of 2002, end of 2003. It depends on how we deal with the work that we're doing. But this is the reason why everything is being accelerated. We've got to head off those transmissions at the path, and because if we don't, we'll all go to sleep. We'll go back to, what was it? I remember something about being an indigo once upon a time, but oh well, got to go to my job. That kind of thing. The levels of awakening and spiritual development that we've worked so hard most of our lives, because indigos usually have been on the path, whether they knew it or not, from the time they came in, that will be put back to sleep if this frequency fence is successful. Our job is to make sure it isn't successful, and all we have to do is use the trivecta and the bivecta coding with our Merkabas. At this point, it's becoming not, keeping your Merkaba at the right spin is a nice thing to do. That's what it was before. Now it's, if you want to keep your brain functioning the right way, we suggest highly that you use the Merkaba techniques that have been given for this reason. If you don't, we don't force anything on anybody. And this is the most intense material that they have released, as far as they've never ever been fear-based material. Usually they will say the solution before they even tell you the problem, so then by the time you hear what the problem is, oh, that's easy, we already know the solution, right? Well, they just did it again. We have a job to do, basically. Indigos have a job to do, and that's help in the process of building this mirage field, which will create a buffer field on a planetary level if we're successful. So literally, we'll see some changes, and indigos will probably see more than others. They will be more sensitive to what's going on outside of the little bubble of protection. But if it goes well, we literally have the potentiality of seeing this hologram in a relatively stable manner, moving through this 3-day particle conversion period. There will also be on the other end of that conversion period some interesting occurrences of our planet learning that it has an inner Earth. Because there will be an introduction committee at some point that gradually leads, if all of these populations get to go through, they are in no way ready to make open contact with the people from the other time cycle and inner Earth. There will be gently led into the hello, we're here and always were introduction process. And there will be some interesting changes, because the big element of instability is how far are the Illuminati races going to push it in regard to trying to create war. They have an advantage of doing that. It creates chaos. And part of what they want to do is create chaos and then come in as our saviors. They're going to save us from ourselves because they're our creators. Yeah, right? This is the lie that they're still planning on trying to run here. But it's not going to work. But it's kind of like, game on, guys. The game is on. But it's not a scary game. It's big chips in the game. But we already have enough knowledge and enough energy with us, frequency with us, in the things that the ordinations that we've done, receiving the transmissions, when we work with Merkaba, when we work with the Maharic Seal, those things are building our body's ability to anchor this level of interstellar frequency. So we have the ability to simply be at peace with what we do, and we're going to be attached to the outcome. Don't worry about it, because that feeds the other side. Just know that there's a balance here. And if we hold the balance within ourselves, we will accomplish the balance in the outside as well. This is our hologram too, and it's about time that we had our pictures here instead of theirs, because for a long time, since the Atlantean period, this hologram has been progressively had somebody else's thought forms shoved all over it, and they were the Anunnaki and Draconian thought forms. And it's time for the humans and the founders' races to restate what the original intention was for this time matrix. Freedom was the original. Joy was the original. Joy in a balanced perspective. So, that was the security release information on the Montauk mess, on the fact that they've activated HARP, and the fact that this is going to create some really interesting controversies on the internet, even if we said nothing, because there's going to be people picking up all sorts of weird stuff all over the place when this starts to go in. There's going to be more arguments on the internet about, what's real, what's not real, and the internet is, let's say, not a divine tool. It's useful when necessary, but it's used to create conflict, particularly within the New Age movement people. It's like the bashing campaign board, where everybody can, just let's fight with each other. No, it's this way. No, it's this way. So it's information central and disinformation central. So you're going to watch wild stuff start to fly on there as we get closer to things. You're going to hear Archangel Michael give his version. You're going to hear Galactic Federation give their version. We're all going to be speaking up, and you're going to be faced with a choice of what version you want to believe. Personally, I'm happy where I am. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But, okay, yes?
Have a location of 144 and 142.
Not yet. Not yet. The first of the 144 trivectors is here tonight. Okay? And it's going right into the Nibiruan network that we're clearing. So it will become a little transmitting station that will help to clear the grids. Yeah. And all of the trips. Oh, the one thing I hadn't talked about yesterday, some of you know about it and some of you don't. They don't have my book here to list all of them. But we have an itinerary of places, of sacred sites we have to go to in the next, you don't have to, but, we're the ones of us that are traipsing all over the globe doing this are being guided to, in order to clear the primary control bases of the Illuminati control bases of those Nibiruan temples where they're still anchoring the checkerboard matrix. They still can hold some of the power. It's not as much as having the one that was anchored at Stonehenge, but they still have 24 bases that are transmitting enough of that they can still, cause problems. So we are progressively, this is one of them. What we do tonight is also going to clear one of the other, actually two of them I think it cleared tonight. So Stargate 2, this one, and I think it goes up to Bermuda. It clears the one in Bermuda as well. So we don't have to go to all 24 sites. And there's you have that in there? It's in the field guide, the list of the 24 United Resistance control bases that we're going to clear. And it also has the list, I think, of the Christos Reclamation Mission, as it's called, where the, let me see, each of the things we go to, the different missions. Okay, we already did Mission 1, which was the Q Site 12 in Kauai, Hawaii. We did something there called Opening the Halls of Amarea. That was that Stargate sequence that goes down from 12 to 9 to 6 to 3 to 1. Okay, that's running the D12 frequency directly down. It's an override system that's used only in cases of major emergency. It'll allow the founders to fully anchor after we go through 3-day particle conversion. There will be 3 days of light on the other side of the 3 days of darkness, because they will be anchoring a D12 planetary Maharic seal that will stay intact. And because it has protection now, once that occurs, the Earth Templar, the stargates, will be kept open. So free energy systems can be developed here based on photoradionic and photosonic energy. So things like the light company and the water company and all those regulatory things that make us pay just to breathe here, they're going to become obsolete. So it's kind of like either catch the wave or be run over by it. It's coming. Okay, so we already did mission 1 in Kauai, Hawaii. We did mission 2 in Ireland, and this is progressively we're clearing the site, the Nibiruan temples. We did mission 2B, which was Stargate 12 in South England. Stargate 12 is actually is that a misprint? Or is that supposed to be, Stargate 12 is not in England, it's in France. But we pulled energy from Gate 12, because we released energy at the Q site 12 in Kauai, and then that would naturally go to Stargate 12 down in France. And we went up in England and pulled it up into Gate 11. So that's why, that's at Stargate 11. We were actually at Stargate 11 instead of 12, but we were there. So I would word that differently, but I know what I was doing when I said that. I was trying to say we were pulling energy from Gate 12 up into the other temples. So we managed to clear, we cleared Nibiruan temples number 2, 3, and 4, which were the England temple, the Iran temple, and the Pakistan temple. And now we're going into, wait a minute. Yeah, it's okay. Now we're going into what we're doing this time is mission 3. We're drawing D12 current from the D6 Stargate in the Caucasus Mountains in Russia. Now this means that Vortice 6, there's 7 primary vortices on the planet that are different locations, some of them are the same location, some are different than the Stargates themselves. They have an activation cycle in a normal stellar activation. Gate 6 was not supposed to open for, I think, till 2008. That is opening now, and we're pulling in the energy from it, because everything is accelerated. What was supposed to happen in 2008 is literally, happening now. So we'll be drawing D12 current from Stargate 6 in the Caucasus Mountains in South Russia into Stargate 2, which is the Grual point, which is here. Okay, by doing this, we'll be clearing Stargate 3 in Bermuda, which also has the Nibiruan Temple running it. It'll be clearing that Nibiruan Temple 3 and the one that's running here. We'll be opening Stargate 3, the Stargate 3 portion of the Halls of Amareya. So when we did the Kauai thing, we anchored the opening of the Halls of Amareya, and now that frequency runs down from D12 to D9 to D6. Then it has to anchor in D3. Okay, and we're opening Stargate 3 aspects. So from here, we're anchoring the Halls of Amareya frequency in the Bermuda Gate, because Bermuda is Stargate 3. So there's a lot of things we're doing just by running this little round table that we're going to be doing. And by the time we are done here, we will have recoded Nibiruan Temples 5 and 6, Bermuda and Sarasota. Then we have a series of other journeys that we're going to be going on. We're going to be going in December through January. It's like right over New Year's. We're going to be going to Stargate 5, Machu Picchu, Peru, and also Stargate 7, Lake Titicaca, Peru. And by the time that mission is over, we will have recoded Nibiruan Temple number 7 in Machu Picchu and number 8 in Portugal. And this is the fun one. Number 9, Lake Titicaca. Number 10, Giza, Egypt. Number 11, South Pole. And number 12, Mauritania, Africa, West Africa. So we're taking out a bunch of them on the Peru trip. We're recoding a bunch of them. And what's nice is we're not taking them anywhere. We're recoding them with the D12 Christos frequency and the primal sound field currents. So they become what was once the adversaries and the torturers of this planet. Those little crystal networks now become our best friends. They heal too, because crystals are made of consciousness like anything else. They've been entrapped by the Nibiruan matrix by serving this role of causing harm. Now they will get their chance to be free, and they will help, because they will be the transmitting. They're already open transmitting stations. So when we do the work and do roundtables at these locations, they will begin they will be like energy pumping stations, and they will progressively pump the D12 frequency and higher out through the grids, which will help us to be able to sustain and to create and sustain the Miage field that we've been asked to do. So our odds are really good. actually, of this going peacefully. We will be given information. This was the worst one as far as security clearance. They've literally, some of it, you heard it just at the same time I did, where it literally came through as I was, as I was going. And the same with this, right before I came down here, and that's why I came down later than I'd intended, because they said, well, now, give it to you now. So what we're going to do is tonight we're going to use those codes. We're going to use the trivecta and the bivecta codes. What I think I want to do over dinner is possibly get, draw it out with marker functionally enough, and then run to Kinko's or something and get a copy made for everybody. And or either that, or everybody can draw them on the bottom of your feet. You can also use, by the way, essence oils to do that. It's when you make the imprint on you, you don't have to use a pen, because your scalar template doesn't read the difference between ink or oil. You could literally hold the form just by taking essence oil and drawing it once onto the chakra, the balls of the feet, because you have little chakras on each foot right here, and that's where you put it, because these are what activate. When you do Merkaba, you have lots of current running up and down through the balls of your feet. So what you're doing is you're direct imbuing a frequency pattern. These frequency patterns that will give you the codes that will enable you to go through gates when the time comes. It's as simple as that. It's like the story is complex, but the way to do it is not that hard. When we do the round tables, it's actually kind of fun. Now, these are the beginnings. These used to be massive, amazing things to behold, because you could, there'd be hundreds of people in them, and there'd be a spinning outer wheel, 2 wheels actually, going both ways, and the people were coordinated enough where they'd not only spin in their own places, but they could spin in synchronization, so they turned the whole wheel on the inside. This could generate, I would hate to see, I don't even want to try to do this yet, because I could see it's all falling all over each other. I couldn't do it. Spin and know how I'm supposed to pace my spin to do a circle at the same time with everybody else, with 52 other people or more. Good luck. We need a major choreographer for this one. But anyway, when the ancients generated these round tables, you could see the zones that they created. You could see the standing waves. They would be oscillating pillars that would sparkle in the air, and they would stay for years. And people would go in them to energize, and they would build healing temples. The first thing you'd do if you were going to build a healing temple was you would set your round, and that would be the energizing base for it. And it would be plugged right into the active Templar, which was the planetary grid systems when the stargates were staying open. This energy is a phenomenal energy. The whole culture used to be built on this type of using photoradionic and photosonic energy. Photoradionic energy is using the light version, where you're using dion energy as opposed to myon energy, and photosonic, which is the sound ones, the sound wave generation, is using myon technology as opposed to dion technology. They are the most powerful external technologies available, and they're based on the Christos principle. They are in harmony with the natural way energy works on the planet. So this is what our future is moving toward. It's moving toward its past, where it once lived the Lyran-Syrian model of love and cooperation and free energy systems and free people being able to feel happiness and to not have to put up with a society that continually drains its energy from the moment it comes in. All right, so it's an amazing mission. I don't even know what to say about it. It's okay, so we have to do, we're going to have Mirage Zones opening. It's par for the course. I don't even know how to share this information sometimes, because it's like being in a sci-fi movie, I feel like I'm in a sci-fi movie half the time, except I've seen so much that I know darn well it isn't. So, all power to us, right? Montauk.
I don't really know what that means and how to protect yourself.
I just told you how you protect yourself. Yep, you use the salutation Merkaba exercises using the bivecta and trivecta codes that we're going to get this evening. Yeah, you already got them. Okay. Yeah.
What does that mean though when they activate ARP? I don't know what that means.
Okay. HARP. Yeah. What is the name of that? That's the...
HARP.
Yeah, but what what is the big long name that's the abbreviation for? Yeah, it's a frequency net that's connected in with radio waves and stuff to outer space. I forget the big long name of it, but there are 12 units of these. We only know about one, the one in Alaska. That's the only one that's publicized. There's a bunch of others in different places. Maine has one. I know that Australia has one. I know that. I think there's one in Europe. They're scattered all over. What they're doing is creating an interface link through satellites. There are satellites that are up there into the actually the ships in D4. Okay, they're linking the ships of the invasion force. So they're anchoring their frequencies into the HARP network. The HARP network is plugged into the electrical systems of the planetary grids. All right, the natural ones and the created ones. This is when your toaster becomes your enemy, because they will be able to transmit this frequency through every electrical and electronic device there is. This means they're going to begin the mass code saturations on the digital television networks. They will also send them through the other networks, but they won't carry them as strong. That's why they're trying to make the conversion and force the conversion to digital television. All right, the digital television stuff, these codes, when they come through, and they're subliminal, but they affect the functioning of the pineal gland. All right, there's also a water issue that's taking place. There are certain elements that are going to be added to the water that will create certain frequency effects, because the bodies would process out these natural, your body has a natural immunity to the stuff that you're going to be picking up with your eyes from what they're beaming through the televisions and things, and it would purge out the pattern so it wouldn't stick in the DNA template. They're going to attempt to put something in the waters. They call it an inorganic compound, but it's not detectable. It's something that our scientists wouldn't be able to find, because it's using, it's using a chemical component from Omega Centauri. They said that's where it's mined, the stuff. And it acts as an organic compound, but it bonds to the molecules, to certain molecules temporarily. And what they're trying to do is get this into the mass water systems. Now, all of this stuff, they're working so hard to do technologies that could be very harmful if people didn't run their Maharic seal. Your Maharic seal alone is enough to protect you from the water stuff. But when it comes to the major frequency fence beaming with extra special coding put in to go after indigos, you need to use the bivecta and trivecta codes. That's why they're giving them. That's why they decided they would release this information early. They wanted to let us know the significance of the bivecta and trivecta codes. That it's not just something to use for you. These are major codings that are going to open the inner earth portals. But it is also the frequencies that will protect indigos and humans from the frequencies that are being broadcast. I would imagine that you're going to see quite a bizarre campaign of, attack this material as soon as it hits the internet, because we're giving the antidote. We're telling you what you can do to keep your brain space safe, to keep yourself safe, and how to help them, and how to help anchor the Christos template here, which is the exact opposite of what they want to do. They're hoping at this point to create a critical mass saturation using their smaller subordinate temple sites, so Templar sites, grid sites, that if they can create a critical mass of negative programming running through those using the frequency fence, which will be an intensified version of the checkerboard matrix that we disengaged, but it'll have a different program. They're hoping to create enough critical mass that they know they can't stop what we're doing as far as clearing the grids, but they can create enough imbalance that as we go through particle conversion, it would create pole shift. So that's what they're aiming for. They're trying to create pole shift because they'd rather see the surface cleared so they can go in to grab the playing board than to just give up. They're not going to give up without a fight, but it's not a fight that you can win with bombs and all that stuff. It's not a fight you can win with anything but real love, which is a state of vibrational harmonization with yourself, your universe, and a bit of knowledge that has to do with knowing how to use your internal, spiritual mechanics, your Merkaba and your DNA template, and to run frequency.
Well, Ashayana, are there, because we're like, in terms of the need for the 144,000 rainbow roundtables, we're like one group. Is this information also being given to another youth?
They've tried.
Other places on the planet?
They've tried. There was another Ekar that in Australia that got taken down. He's got draconian field possession right now. We have lost about 80% of our team. I won't name people.
I'd like to add just one piece of information to this. About 10 days ago in Columbus.
Can you speak up?
Yeah, about 10 days ago in Columbus, I had all my energy fields go down. And Carrie went to the store and bought a little gizmo, and what we discovered was there was a huge magnetic field being broadcast over the electrical circuits. Now, because I went around, because I couldn't believe this, you know, you get within 5 feet of the wall switch, and there'd be this huge magnetic pulsing field that you could record on a tape recorder. I mean, this was not hard to figure out. And so all I can say is it's certainly already hit Central America, and it's probably nationwide. And one way that you can sort of get yourself out of the influence of it is get yourself away from electrical devices when you don't absolutely need them.
No TV in your rooms.
Well, I mean, you can't avoid the fact that your house is
Just
wired
unplug them.
for electricity. You know, and if you're
I still watch TV with a Maharic seal. I mean, you can save yourself a lot of trouble, though. Honestly, we can waste so much energy running around trying to protect ourselves from the outside thing that might get us. That's not the way to approach it, to be truthful. I mean, in the meantime, and you can do that if you want to. However, why waste your energy on running around unplugging things and putting your TVs out, you know, burying them out in the backyard and this kind of stuff? You're not going to win it that way. You're not going to protect yourself that way. All you have to do, if you put all that energy into simply saying, okay, I'm going to go out and do my salutation this morning and run my codes. Yeah, do that twice a week. That's all you have to do. You can still watch TV. You can still listen to music. You can do anything you want if you use the Maharic seal and you use these 2 protection codes that will assist you. So this is one of the things. This is one of the tricks that's part of the disinformation program, where you get so nervous you start to realize, oh my God, they're really doing this. You want to stop it. But the way to stop it isn't interfacing with it this way. It's going up and using frequency itself, fight frequency with frequency. And then you can enjoy the TV and enjoy whatever else you want, knowing you're safe.
I just wanted to say that if people feel their energy field dropping, know that it's a real phenomenon.
Yes. I'm glad you said that, because it is true. We're hit with it all the time. Michael and I get hit with all sorts of weird stuff here, you know, in Sarasota. And we're beginning now. We've been so busy, we hardly ever have time to even do like a daily or a weekly routine with the techniques, because we're so busy preparing the stuff for everybody else. But we've committed to at this point that as soon as this workshop is done, we are starting with a minimum of 2 every morning, getting up like every maybe 2 times a week, maybe 3, maybe more, depending on if we feel we need it. Doing the salutations. It's serious business now. And if you want to, make sure you're safe and keep your integrity, where you don't have to waste so much of your thought energy on protection from an outside thing getting you, because that's the wrong way to approach it. Just simply make a commitment to doing, even twice a week, the salutations with the trivecta and bivecta codes. Okay?
Well, the other part of my question was, what would be the logistics of getting this number of, round tables done? What would be really the logistics of getting 144,000 accomplished?
Well, 144 is a lot more likely than 144,000 on top of that. They know that. They know that. That's
either physically to do it.
That's another thing. All right. There are some things. Now, round tables are very hard to set and project. All right, because they have to run through a frequency field, and they tend to lose momentum and lose coding, and can pick up additional coding by running through. So that's why we end up not doing them remote 90% of the time. So as far as, first of all, if we don't manage to get the bivecta ones done, the 144,000, we will still have enough. If we can get the 144 trivecta ones done, that will be enough to create, at least localized in some areas of the globe, there will be safe zones. And that would be the point where, we start letting people know, like, excuse me, this is what's going on. You want to come or don't you? You know what I mean? So all is not lost if we don't manage to make the 144,000. We're going to get a lot of help. I'm not sure exactly how, but I can feel it. In fact, they're kind of pushing that at me right now. There's going to be some events, I don't know what they are, that assist in the whole awakening process, is what I'm being told. Okay. I wouldn't doubt it if maybe at some point they're going to stage a mass like, hello, something's up here, so maybe people start paying attention and become interested in assisting. But for now, we haven't been given any more to do than the 24 sites. You also have to realize with these 24 sites, they are main control bases that are fully linked in to all the grids. As we clear these, they will be broadcasting this frequency and setting major intercept zones. Now, we still need to do the 144 physical manual ones. I'm hoping that they haven't said yes or no yet, and I think it depends on how the frequency fields go with the 144. If we can possibly do some of them remote with their help, that would help a lot, because then small groups of us could, wherever we live, do a small round, and they'll give us if we're going to do this, they will give me a technique to show you as far as how we do it and project it to the site we're aiming for. So there's more to come on this. This is just the beginning, kind of like the first wave of, okay, this is what's going on. They figure we can remember it easier. If it's like, if you go to step 6, it's not going to happen for 4 years. You forget what you're supposed to do now. You know what I mean? You get preoccupied. So this is the first level of what's been given. This is big time. I mean, as far as the information we've dealt with, we were never given anything like this before. But everything I can see that we had before was to build up to in case it became necessary for this. So, anyway, I wouldn't worry about it, okay? Where there's a will, there's a way. And we have a lot of assistance, a lot more than there is resistance. They just don't realize it yet out here, okay? There's going to be a lot more support coming. Yes.
Even though there's a lot of assistance, isn't it true that we have to be on site in order to do the work?
Can't hear you.
So far, yes. You said,
Could you repeat your question for someone else?
okay, yeah. Well, it said, isn't it true that even though there's a lot of assistance, we need to be on site for the work? Now, so far, for the Rainbow Roundtables, that has been the case. They need the physical bodies there to anchor. They need you to anchor frequency right through, because you're not going to get as strong a projection if you try to visualize it going there. You'll get some, but you won't get as strong as a link field, because your D3 frequency is talking to the planetary D3 frequency right below your feet. So I know that we have to do at least the tables that have been identified. There may be another plan. They did say something about, and they're not telling me where it fits yet, that there would be a world peace dance movement. The Merkaba dance. Right? You know how people love to do like airheaded New Age things? Yeah. There's a lot of people out there, they don't want to know real stuff, but they'll do anything if they say, Star Brother so-and-so taught me, and they'll just like, they'll go off and do anything. They have a plan, they haven't revealed it to me yet, where we're going to be taught how to be teachers to the sleepers. All right? Sleeper teachers. We were sleepers once. We're just kind of like rubbing our eyes waking up here going, oh boy. But the people that are still not ready for this level of data, and it would take too long to get them awake, there are ways to get them involved with doing the right thing and through their own Christos template, so you're not forcing anything on them, where they'd enjoy it, get benefit from it, and help the planet at the same time, even if they didn't care if they were helping the planet. So I know there is a program coming that has to do with this, but it hasn't been showed to me yet. And I think the Internet features very, very largely in it, as far as moving technique through to get people to start, hey, let's do this. There may be more to it than that, and I think there probably is. I just don't know what it is yet. But I feel this like bubble of excitement around it. Like, what are you up to? I know it's going to be good, right? I can feel something in it. This is the interface point where the small indigo group started to wake up. This is the first wave indigo people, right? There are 550,000 indigos out there, okay? They're not all awake yet. So they're going to start waking. They're going to be giving transmissions through the planetary grids that starts to wake up the indigo DNA, which means they'll start to realize there's something more that they need to understand. I get the feeling that this work is going to expand. I had the feeling, too, and I told Michael this, that, it's like birthing a child. Once it comes out, it kind of takes on a life of its own, and you can assist it, you can nurture it, but you just get out of its way, basically, once it starts to grow up. This is going to happen. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know the work is going to expand into more, I don't know if it would be mainstream, but it would at least be, more into the main New Age community, so there will be more people joining us. They've been told that, so,
Can I share?
Yeah.
One of the things that's been downloaded to me is the Jehovian imprint that needs to be acknowledged by us, for us to heal it so it doesn't create the separation it's designed. And I just share it with you and see if this feels right. But one of the major ones that we're dealing with is righteousness, and how we use that to justify our position, whatever it might be within this material. We can take our mental body, justify our position with this material even, go into righteousness and create separation amongst the group. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that they showed me is that if we had all have a chance to really unify, start to notice if you're going into separation among each other with righteousness, because that is a clear Jehovian manipulation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if that's happening, then command it to leave, mm-hmm. and command do the merging, do the techniques. Yeah. But that's really we're really going to be downloaded with that. It's going to be activated to create separation among us and mistrust.
Yes.
That's the way they're going to try to do it.
Yeah, very much so. And I'm so used to this. From the moment I stepped out and started speaking, it started, and I was amazed. I was like, huh? Why don't the people in New Age, why aren't they being nice to me? I'm being nice to them. One of the things, the oldest tricks in the book is conquered through division. All right? Now, you can only conquer through division people who leave themselves open for it. All right? Open for it means, first of all, do you need to make other people wrong by thinking you're more right than they are? Because even if you are, it doesn't matter. Are you worried about being right or being effective? These are things you can put in any situation in your life. We have been trained to make sure we're right, okay, to take action. We've been trained and conditioned that we need to be right, and very often that ends up having to make someone else wrong. At this point in the game, one of the tricks of separation, of conquering through division, is one has to be right and the other has to be wrong. You can find yourself saying, well, that person's doing this and I don't think it's right. That person should be doing it this way. Worry about you, okay? That's one thing. Another thing is people are going to be processing all over the place. DNA activations do all sorts of wild things in your system. You'll have good days and bad days. There will be days when people, you are processing energy and you feel awful. If you can remember on those days not to take it out on the people around you, but at the same token, if you can remember that other people are processing too. There's an old saying that it does as much harm to love and unity to take offense as it does to give offense. This is where you learn to swallow your pride and your ego, and you say, well, if I'm interpreting what so-and-so did as a way that's offending me, maybe they didn't mean it, maybe they did, it doesn't even matter at this point. If you go into defense towards someone because you feel they're being offensive to you, you are separating the frequency of vibrational harmonization, which means you're diluting your ability to amplify each other's power and strength through the love frequency. So if you can memorize that one, it creates as much destruction. Destruction is a good way to look at it, because that's exactly what it's doing to frequency building. To take offense as it does to give offense. That means don't play victimizer, don't play victim either, okay? If somebody's doing something to you you don't like, or you misinterpreted possibly something they said, or maybe you didn't misinterpret it and maybe they really meant it offensively, try to go to a space where you can let people be who they are and love them anyway, all right? And love yourself anyway. If we can learn to not be so hard in judgment on ourselves and each other, we will not be able to be separated and conquered through the vision. This is what has made it so indigos have repeatedly had to come back here in this role, because we have repeatedly been conquered through division, because you get us all stirred up, and we're very sensitive people, and we're very aware and intelligent people, and all of us know we're right, okay? Which is fine, but allow everybody else the opportunity to know they're right too. We're both right, and if we're not seeing eye to eye on something, there's a reason for that. I will allow you to be your right, and you will allow me to be my right. Let's call it a truce, okay?
I feel like we're really moving into a very vulnerable state right now. Emotionally, I feel it in the group, and I feel it in the reflections. So I just feel like if we all set that intent and really ground it in our hearts with each other in our communications, it will create the best protection that we can do. So
it also helps to look at, if you have problems with anybody or issues with anybody, it also helps to, if you're seeing stuff that's really bugging you about somebody, even to the point where you might be getting bitchy and picking on them, which really isn't a good thing to do to show you, it doesn't help, okay? You can go to a place where you can realize, I'm seeing one polarity right now. Where's the other? Try to find the good things about the person or the situation. Don't let yourself get stuck in the agitation of negative polarity, because it'll take your emotional body and run with it, and it'll get you going in a negative spiral that drains a lot of your energy, and that weakens your astral field, which leaves you more open to attack, all right? You are in a situation where you're assisting with a mission that there's a lot of resistance to. There's a lot more assistance than there is resistance. But we are still, it would be very naive to think that if one of us didn't have enough protection in our fields, that one of the other fallen angelic matrices wouldn't try to come in and do something. Of course they would. We're valuable territory. Indigos are the greatest thing you can grab if you're a fallen angelic. If you can get into their fields and get control over them and move them, they have the codes, the security codes to the planetary grids. If you can get them going in reverse, they're like a gold mine. You'd need about 10,000 regular 12-strand humans to accomplish what you could do with one body-snatched indigo. So don't be naive, but don't be paranoid either. You don't need to be paranoid, all right? It's not as if it's any different, because these forces have been moving with us ever since we came in. We might have wondered why our lives went certain ways, and it was kind of strange, and it seems like there's been a lot of, can't life let up sometimes, There's a reason for that. It's not that you have, all of a sudden, because you're involved with this work, that now you're a target for fallen angelic negativity. You were since the moment you came in as a streak of light, because they saw you coming in. They know we're all here, all right? So if we can work on basic interpersonal skills and basic spirituality 101 stuff, mindfulness, choosing kindness, choosing love, even when you feel angry, choosing ways to honor your anger in ways that don't dishonor yourself or other people. Basic laws of emotional body management. Don't let your emotions drag your mind around. It's supposed to work the other way, but don't repress them either. They're your best friend if you let them clear. Emotional clearing time will be needed for each of us in our own way. That doesn't mean you go kick the dog a few times, all right? The dog has nothing to do with it. It means if you have to go punch a pillow, do it. If you have to go cry in the bathroom, do it. Let the emotion out. You have to realize something, that emotion is energy that's in chaotic form right now because of the way the planetary grids have been operating. Now, if we're going to be harmed by it, if we're going to let that energy come up and run us over, we're going to be in trouble because we need to maintain clarity. We're supposed to be able, if we're the first wake-up team, we're the ones the others look to as leaders.
Oh, yeah.
Scary thought, isn't it? That doesn't mean we walk around with our noses in the air. God, we'll be lucky if we can crawl through the gates the rate we're going, but at least we'll get there, right? So it's really important at this point to realize we're entering a big, amazing drama that nobody's had a chance to in literally thousands of years, and it requires some maturity. And if that maturity isn't there, it will begin to show itself very rapidly, and that's okay, because there are parts of each of us that are very mature and parts that have been repressed in order to allow the other part to mature. Those parts that were pushed aside until the other part could get to a high level of maturity will now come out to integrate. You can't. The worst thing you can do is beat up on yourself and say, God, I thought I had a level, but I guess I don't because I'm acting like a jerk today. Don't even label yourself like that. Give yourself permission to have a process, the process of growth and expansion, and give that permission to everybody else. And if you use the basic rule of kindness, am I being kind? Before I use these words, are they kind, honestly? Think about things like that, and you won't allow openings for conquer through division, not with the group, or not with your own family, or not with your own self. So it's time to, brush up on the spiritual, what do I know about being spiritual? Time to pull it out of the pocket and dig it out of the dresser drawer and start using it on a daily level. And it will bring us to levels personally where all sorts of things are going to open up in you now. The frequencies to wake up the indigos are coming, and we're the first that are going to be hit with it. That means your higher parts are going to be talking to you a mile a minute, and you're going to be trying to learn how to hear them. Some of you can already hear them. Some can't. We have to open the channels. We have to open the DNA strands and learn how to sequence information before we'll get verbal translation like this. Gosh, I've been trained since I was literally 7 years old to do translation like this. It doesn't come like that overnight. We must have had 40 billion papers with chicken scratch on them before we got to the point where we could have something that had something to say. So it's a process you're going to be going through. Help each other. Help yourself. And gentleness and love are the way to do it. And forgiveness before the fact. Then there's nothing to worry about forgiving. Just move on to the next moment. Try to make it a better one. Okay? Now, I think what we'll do, let me see, just one second. I want to see what time it is. Okay, it's about 7:30 now. Okay, I think we'll call the dinner thingy now, so people have time to go out and get something to eat. We can come back between 9:30 and 10-ish, right?